Back, everybody. I hope you had a great weekend. It's hard to believe that it's already homecoming week. Have a lot of fun this week. Be smart. Make good decisions. Don't risk what you want most for what you maybe want in the moment. So be smart, be responsible, conduct yourself with the high character that we always do, but have a lot of fun this week for homecoming. This week we're looking at social awareness a little bit. We're starting to build some empathy skills. Empathy is something I think we have to practice. You can never truly know what someone else is going through or how they're feeling. Their own experiences and backgrounds impact their perspective. Even if we go through similar things, we're going to view it through a different prism as someone else. But this is something that we can practice and we can get better at, and we want to do that. So I first want to talk a little bit about biases. We all have certain biases just based on our upbringing, our experiences. Those are sort of implicit biases. And a lot of the times our implicit biases are pretty innocuous. They're not impacting our lives in a major way. It'd be preferences for different brands, for different teams. You know, if your favorite NFL team is the Vikings, it's probably because of where we live, or that's the team your family cheered for. If your favorite team is the Packers or the Bears or something like that, that probably just depends on your upbringing, your exposure at some point in your life. Again, most of the time, that doesn't impact our lives in a major way. We maybe, I don't like the other teams that are in the division, and I like my team, but that's not that big of a deal unless it gets to like a toxic level. Same thing if you're, the Shoppies and you're sitting here, I'm a Duramax guy, I'm a Cummins guy. Fair enough. It's probably because of your experience, what you've been exposed to. Those things are all fine and good, but those are implicit biases. Not that big of a deal. We also have in-group biases where we tend to gravitate toward things like us, people like us, what we're used to. And again, a lot of times that's fairly innocent. All of those things, all of those biases become dangerous when we start to attach negative feelings towards them, or we're not willing to actually examine the situation. That's a really dangerous bias that exists now in society, is confirmation bias. It's so easy to get on social media, and those algorithms are catered to things that we click on and things that we look at. And we can fall into the trap of confirmation bias because we're only getting information that already supports our current interests. We don't have to examine the other side. If we have a feeling about a social issue or a political issue, we can get in this echo chamber where that's all the information that we're getting is just our side. It's all stuff that says, yep, confirm what we already think. And that's dangerous. And most of the negative isms that exist in the world, racism, sexism, ageism, all those sorts of things, largely exist because we don't make the time and effort to understand people in groups that are different than us. It's easy for us to create the other, and in some ways, that's built into us. It's part of a survival skill, is to make assumptions about things or try to protect ourselves. But it becomes a really negative thing when we don't let in other ideas and we don't talk to other people. I'm of the opinion that most of our biases, most of our negative feelings, most of the separating people into other groups that happens could really be solved if we were willing to sit down and honestly talk to other people and get to know them. Because we find out we all have differences, but we're alike, more alike in the most important ways than we're different. Everybody, regardless of culture, background, orientation, all sorts of things, has hopes and dreams and fears, things that they're anxious about, things that they want to accomplish. And those things are very, very similar. They should be the things that unite us. And I'm reminded of just sort of the way that we sometimes fall into our own little groups. I think of my first day in college, actually. So this was reporting for football camp as a freshman, going to college. And this is back then we didn't have social media, so you weren't connecting with a bunch of people on the team prior to getting there. I had met a couple guys at recruiting visits, but that was about it. Otherwise, you just kind of showed up on the first day, and here it is. You're meeting everybody. I was certainly nervous. Get there, and it's, I don't know, 120 guys are in this big meeting room after we moved into the dorms, and the coaches and everybody. And I found out later that there were some people who maybe had an initial thought about me. You see, at the time, I had this spiky hair with frosted tips, like where you'd bleach the tips of your hair. This was the early 2000s, so 2003, so this was a look at the time, but I looked like a member of NSYNC. And I don't remember what I was wearing on that day, but chances are probably good it was some like loud, colorful shirt. I used to, a lot of times back then, I would go to Goodwill and I'd actually buy like old women's blouses because they were like silky and colorful and they were kind of fun. And I would wear those, and I had like a shell necklace on, I'm sure, because I used to wear that all the time back then. Again, that was in style at the time. But apparently, a lot of people saw me when we first got there because you're all kind of sizing everybody up. And they thought that I was maybe this quarterback recruit from Florida that we knew was, that some of the guys knew was like a big time recruit. That was not me at all. I was coming in as a defensive end from St. Ansgar, Iowa. But I kind of looked the part. I looked like maybe kind of a Florida guy, and I was about the same size I am right now, so that's awfully small for a Division II defensive lineman, but I'm pretty, okay size for a quarterback. So it's like, that might be the quarterback recruit from Florida, not me. The other thing is you get in there and you see all these 100 and some odd guys, and it's like, well, who do you go sit with? And pretty quickly it was like, a lot of the white guys would go sit with the white guys, and black guys would go sit with the black guys. And even amongst that, people would try to find people who look like they're maybe in the same position group, right? The big white guys, like, okay, probably an offensive lineman, go sit with him. And I'm not trying to put people into boxes either, but that's kind of what happens. And if you watch like college football, NFL football, people are kind of trying to go like, okay, where's maybe my group here? And I remember people kind of sitting that way, grouping up that way on the first day. And there was a lot of new people because we were part of the first Division II class at Upper Iowa, so it was tons of new people coming in for this recruiting class. So that's the thing too. Like, I really don't think we had an issue on our team once we got going with racial feelings or things like that. I mean, we had a pretty close team actually, but that's that maybe instinct to be like, ooh, find people who look like me, who I maybe fit in. Now, back to people thought I was maybe this quarterback. We had to go up by position groups to introduce ourselves. Defensive line was the first group to go. So we get up there, and I'm, again, pretty undersized for that level of football, and all these bigger guys are lined up there, and then I'm up there, and people are already kind of like, oh, okay, he's with that group, I guess. Not the quarterback. And everybody goes down the line and introduces themselves. And you had to say your position and where you're from, that sort of thing. Then it gets to me, and I say, hey, Luke Nielsen, defensive end, St. Ansgar, Iowa. And I don't know if the entire room was laughing, but it sure felt like the entire room started laughing. If nothing else, a lot of dudes in the room started laughing. And I was already pretty nervous, and I'm like, oh, man, this is not a great start. Well, obviously, I sound the way I sound. I know what my voice sounds like. So it was just a reaction that a lot of guys had where they thought maybe I'm like this Florida quarterback. Then I go up with the defensive line group. Then I start talking, and I kind of looked like this Florida or California kind of surfery guy at the time. And I start talking with kind of my deep guy, dumb guy voice, and people thought it was funny. So then guys like, hey man, is that really how you talk? Yeah, that's how I talk. So it wound up being good. I had a wonderful experience playing there, all that. But that's what I mean. Like, those were a lot of innocent assumptions that were happening on that first day by me and by other people. And that happens a lot. That's pretty innocent and kind of, it's a funny memory for me. It's not a memory I feel bad about. But we have to take the time to get to know people, because we don't know people from the outside looking in. And we don't understand other groups. And it's really, really easy to separate people out and try to put ourselves into different groups. But it's really important to see things from other perspectives. And it doesn't mean we have to change our minds either. You really form a belief when you're willing to examine opposing views and then decide what you really think, what you really feel. So what we're going to do in class is, at least in my classes, is we're going to draw numbers or draw names, partner up with somebody, and you're going to do a little interview. And we're going to try to get kind of beyond surface level questions. We'll kind of brainstorm together, but just have a conversation with somebody who you maybe haven't had a conversation with before. All right, until next time, much love.